A CNN panel explodes as ex-Bush advisor claims Kamala Harris couldn't pick Josh Shapiro due to rampant anti-Semitism in the Democratic Party. I don't think it's fair to say the panel exploded. This is Scott Jennings, a former special assistant to President George W. Bush. He made his point, and no one got bent out of shape over it. He made his point. Let me pull it up here. I think it's around the 5-minute mark where he chimes in on this one.
Bowed down to the radical left in her party by not picking Shapiro, who is Jewish. There was a nasty campaign run against him. Everybody knows it. No one wants to admit it, but everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. And she wound up choosing the person who was not Jewish and not as talented and not from the state that she has to win. He did a nice job tonight. Everybody could see why he was the best choice, but she couldn't do it because the party is somewhat awash in anti-Semitism. And for Walz, when he did what he did during the riots, to me, it was him saying, I don't have the strength or the character to stand up to this anarchy. So in two big decision points for this ticket, they've showed us they will always bow down to the radical left. So I think if you want to talk about normal, to the normal people in this country, bowing down to the radical left is not normal. It shouldn't be normal, and it should be a flashing red light.
But this is the reality. And I think he's right. I think the reality is when you look at Cori Bush, they had to dump so much money to compete against her. Now, the reality is people in her district don't like her. The people in Ilhan Omar's district don't like her. The Somali Muslims don't like Ilhan Omar. And this is an important point because a lot of conservatives think that she gets massive support from the Somali community. They roast her all the time because she's a leftist, she's woke, and she's pro-LGBTQ. Right. You can still see with AOC and the squad a large DSA leftist, anti-Israel, pro-Palestine contingent. And the question then becomes, outside of the woke, you do have Dearborn, you do have the Somali migrants in Minnesota. Were they to have picked Shapiro, maybe they could have won in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Maybe they could have won back some of these more moderate Jewish voters in the United States who are concerned and probably going to be voting for Trump. But they probably would have lost a lot in Michigan and Minnesota, which was, I believe it was Michigan, where they had that campaign to not vote for, was it not to vote for Joe Biden?
Yeah. Well, remember, Kamala wasn't running during the primary. Right. She was still the VP.
And I think it's fair to say that there's a difference between criticism of Israel and a criticism and claiming that they wouldn't vote for a Jewish guy. But I got to stress this, because we had Taylor Hansen on the Culture War podcast, Tenet Media, Friday, 10 a.m. I think this was last week. I have been on the ground, and you have too, Elad. So I want to hear your experiences, but I will tell you mine. I have met many people in the 10 years that I was on the ground who are holding up signs publicly saying, we have no problem with Jewish people. It's just Israel. When the cameras turn off, they're like, no, it's Jews.
So there's so many different groups and types of people, different types of people that you'll see at protests. And some of them are on the same page and some aren't. So at these
fair point. I've met people who are strictly anti-Israel. I have friends who are very critical of Israel. You're allowed to be.
I'm trying to be very nuanced here. So you'll go to these events and they'll be like young white liberals, the people from the young crowd, like a young black person, a young Spanish person. And I find like some of those people actually tend to be not pro-Hamas, but I'll find them next to more extreme protesters who wrap the keffiyeh around their head, who are usually Arab, who are more likely to yell Allahu Akbar. For example, a couple of weeks ago when Bibi Netanyahu came and visited and gave a speech at Congress, what were the chants that we were seeing when they took the flag down and started burning it? It was the Allahu Akbar. Some of the people disperse at that point. There are only a few flags that have Hezbollah's logo on it. But then again, it's considering like, I remember back in the day when at a Trump rally, if they saw one person with a swastika somewhere outside, they'd say, oh, everybody at the rally is a Nazi. But nobody seems to condemn this stuff actively while they're there. So I'm just trying to have some nuance.
No, I completely agree.